Hello and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. During the Monroe County Commissioners meeting on July 26th, Health Administrator Lori Kelly presented the grant funding for local schools in the amount of $12,280. The Health Department will support local schools through the Cooperative Agreement for Emergency Response.
The Monroe County Health Department opted to help support local schools through the COAG grant funding. The primary focus of this grant is to provide a school liaison to be able to work directly with the schools, provide support services, update communicable disease plans, ensure that all of the schools are up to date with their vaccination clinics. All the schools have the support that they need for vision and dental screening. In addition, the 8 schools chose to work directly with our school liaison and decided to submit project proposals for review. On July 20th, the Board of Health met and made recommendations as listed on the document.
Dr. Sarah Ryderband spoke to the commissioners about the grant and the requests they received from the schools.
I am on the Board of Health. I am an appointment by the commissioners, and I'm not sure that what you've been given is truly reflective of the conversation. We've had multiple conversations in multiple months about these COAG grants, and we're very dismayed at what we were given from the schools, who apparently did not understand that this is about preparedness for not if, but when we have a next pandemic or next major event that will affect all of the schools, but also the entire community. What you see before you are the few things that we could pick out from any one of those proposals that seemed even reasonable. What I particularly struggle with was that it says that we suggested that 2 AEDs were appropriate for St. Charles. What we did talk about that is just like this building has an AED, that perhaps every school should have an AED. That makes sense. It makes sense that our school coordinator then would be able to train people in how to use that appropriately, that it wasn't a toy and it's not something that can be used without some training. Again, the things that we truly agreed on was that water filters are appropriate to refill water so that children aren't sucking on the water fountains, and that AEDs are appropriate. But a lot of these things are not necessarily appropriate. Had schools asked for perhaps HVAC filters for their systems rather than our replacing those systems, we could have gotten on board. But I'm not sure that what you see before you is truly reflective of what we believe is appropriate for the schools. And I would really want that done in conjunction with the school liaison, recognizing what are we missing in each of these schools and what is appropriate for their needs and for future preparation.
Commissioner Penny Githens followed up on the request from the Seven Oaks School and said she was unsure what the next steps should be on the motion.
When I listened to the Board of Health meeting, they indicated that they felt, at least some of your colleagues indicated that they felt that this Seven Oaks request for HEPA filters had some merit.
Recording in progress.
As well as the electrostatic foggers, that it felt like they were okay with 2 AEDs at St. Charles, I think because there are two separate buildings perhaps. I'm not sure about that. But they didn't feel that trauma kits were needed. And there just wasn't a whole lot else that came through when I was listening to this. Yes, they felt like every school should have 1 bleed kit and 1 AED, and I'm not sure how we make that possible. So I'm not sure where we go from here with this particular motion.
Kelly explained the timeline that is in place for using the grant funding.
This particular grant cycle has ended, but with this type of grant, once the deliverables are met, these are our funds to retain and then spend as long as it's in alignment with the grant.
The commissioners moved to table the discussion of the grant until their next meeting. At the July 26 meeting of the Bloomington City Council, Director of Survey Research for Poll Company, Jade Arocha, shared the results from a citywide survey asking citizens various questions about their experience in the city. The survey ranked Bloomington alongside 500 other cities in the surveyor's database. Arocha said that this is the fourth year Bloomington has done the survey.
Getting into the key findings now. Our first key finding, Bloomington residents continue to have a positive quality of life. So about 3/4 of respondents rated the overall quality of life in the city as excellent or good and in 2023. And similarly, about the same proportion of residents viewed Bloomington as a place to live favorably. And then about 7 in 10 gave excellent or good ratings to the city as a place to raise children and as a place to visit. 6 in 10 to their neighborhood as a place to live. And roughly half to Bloomington as a place to work and to retire. Bloomington as a place to grow a business that received excellent or good ratings from 39% of residents.
Arocha walked the council through characteristics that residents said pertain to Bloomington, the highest being the overall opportunity for education and enrichment.
The survey asks about a number of broad community characteristics, as in past years. And so we've displayed this year's survey data as well as the 2021 survey data side by side here. So when rating this set of 8 community characteristics, about 8 in 10 gave positive ratings to overall opportunities for education and enrichment and the quality of the overall natural environment in Bloomington. Generally speaking, ratings related to education and enrichment, adult educational opportunities, et cetera, tended to be above average ratings in Bloomington.
Arocha went over which traits residents liked the most about Bloomington, according to the survey.
When asked to select from a list, the one thing that they liked most about living in the city of Bloomington, 18% of respondents indicated that they were pleased with the access to educational opportunities into the university, and this was the most commonly selected response option. 14% chose the sense of community and small town feel, and a similar proportion selected that it was beautiful or the appearance of the city and that it was eco-friendly. And then about 1 in 10 selected either cultural activities and entertainment, the people, or that it's a friendly place.
Then Arocha announced the results from the survey pertaining to what residents liked the least about the city, namely the lack of affordable housing and the prevalence of homelessness.
Residents were also asked to indicate what is one thing that they like least about this Bloomington. And so about half of respondents here in this question mentioned the lack of housing or homelessness. Combined half, so 25% on affordable housing and homelessness, 22%, 16% mentioned roads, traffic, or public transportation. So those 3 rose to the top as far as the top 3 categories that were mentioned by residents. 1 in 10 also mentioned that they were unhappy with development or government topics related to government, such as politics, trust, or decision-making.
After the presentation, there were a few questions from the council members. Councilmember Jim Sims questioned the validity of the survey sample, which represents all of the residents despite less than 20% of the population responding to the survey.
Is it correct that 3,000 households were contacted and there were 367 responses?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, and I don't have a reason at this point to dispute or disagree with those findings. I guess what I'm really wanting to know is how were those responses statistically weighted so that they reflect the entire Bloomington population? Can you explain that to us, how that happened? How 367 people can, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, great question. With regard to weighting, we do ask a series of demographic questions on the survey, which map to the U.S. Census. So then we use census data to identify what we call the population norm for Bloomington, so who actually lives in the community. And then we evaluate who we heard from, which is called the unweighted data. And then we use statistical analysis programs. In our case, we use SPSS to statistically weight the data, which then essentially performs adjustments to the data to make it more representative of your residents and accounts for any discrepancies. For example, older residents tend to respond to surveys at higher rates than younger residents. So the weighting process makes adjustments for that. This is a very pivotal part of the gold standard survey industry process. Weighting unweighted data or raw data are not the data to refer to. The weighted data is definitely what you want to consider as your representative information.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, of those 367, do those reflect, or do you have records that reflect income differences between those respondents and or racial and social and cultural differences? So of those 367, you have an idea of which demographic group those responses came from?
Yes, we do.
Next, the council heard from Director of Planning and Transportation, Scott Robinson, about the Lower Cascades Park pedestrian and bicycle network. Old State Road 37, which cuts through Lower Cascades, had been set aside for closure to through traffic to increase the connectivity for bicyclists and pedestrians, specifically for students at Bloomington North High School who do not drive. That plan heard opposition from residents who said the road should remain open. Robinson walked the council through the options available to use the road moving forward.
In the memo, I outlined 4 possible alternatives to consider for this southern piece of the network. The first is kind of a no-build opportunity. If that were the decision to move forward with, we would need to amend our comprehensive and transportation plans to remove that guidance, that policy guidance to implement that type of infrastructure on this portion of the roadway, and we would need to build a sidewalk in order to provide accessibility to one of our destinations. Second is option would be a new trail or separated trail from the roadway. Councilmember Volan mentioned the $3 million price tag. That's a very general estimate, but until we get into the design phase, this would be by far the most expensive alternative to consider in this section of road. Primarily, there's very limited road width to work with because of the close proximity of the stream bank, the steep slopes, and the trees. So this would by and far be the most expensive alternative to consider. The other alternative is something that we looked back some time ago in the past about could we convert the road to a one-way road where a portion of the road could serve as a trail. That's another alternative to consider. That one has its challenges too, primarily which direction of flow would the traffic be for the one-way traffic. The road would need to be widened in order to accommodate both a trail and a one-way road. Feasibility, I'm not sure if we have enough width to be able to do that. And then the last, 4th option is the roadway conversion. Again, where this section of road would be converted to a trail. Access to all other amenities in this area would still be accessible via automobile, bike and ped, what have you. This section, again, would be evaluated and designed to be closed and converted. Where those points of closure would be determined at a later point. I do want to point out that all of these considerations, we need to be mindful of the stream side stabilization that needs to take place along the corridor here. We need to coordinate with IMI, the concrete facility just north of the bypass. There may be utility upgrades needed along the corridor. All of these will meet ADA compliance for accessibility standards. I will say that there might be federal funding limitations depending on which alternative is chosen. Not impossible, but anytime you impact a park, anytime you're close to streams, there might be some historic factors, definitely raise some red flags when using federal funding, so that might limit our options when considering funding opportunities moving forward.
Robinson warned that if they do expand the street to accommodate both uses, it could have harmful effects on the stream bank. He explained that the stream bank stabilization is a priority.
We had the pilot study where we had temporarily closed the road, and then there was a June 2011 storm event that actually washed out a portion of the roadway. Obviously, as part of climate action and stream bank stabilization, that's something that we need to be mindful of. I think it's without saying much to point out that it's clear guidance, policy guidance from the city about climate action. As you can see, the storm really did damage the roadway, the portion of the roadway was being considered. At the time when this pilot came to an end, the decision was to reopen the road and install traffic calming features. That was not a permanent decision, that was a temporary decision. These improvements are not consistent with our plans and policies. It was an interim step, and it does not meet the various needs and challenges that are before us.
The next Bloomington City Council meeting will be held on Wednesday, August 2nd. The Monroe County Community School Corporation School Board met on July 25th. The school board voted to approve Resolution 2023-15 to initiate amendments to the MCCSC governing plans.
On July 7th, 2023, MCCSC posted 3 school district modification plans on our website, invited the public and board to review and comment on the plans. On July 21st, 2023, the board closed the online comments. Board officers met with representatives from the Indiana Business Research Center to discuss relevant additional questions and comments received from the 2 community members who submitted comments. From this process, the original plan, Plan A, is being recommended as a selected map as it most closely meets our stated goals. The new board districts have a total population ranging of 17,025 to 17,687, with the difference of any district from the mean being no greater than 2%, a significant improvement from our current board districts. There's one community member that has submitted multiple comments to the board requesting a change from residential districts to electoral districts as part of our board reorganization process. Residential districts mean that all MCCSC registered voters may vote for all 7 board districts. Electoral districts mean that each MCCSC registered voter may vote for the board district where they reside or one of the 7 districts. This was not something that our community requested through our survey and public comments as part of the current process, nor something that any board member publicly requested for our current redistricting process. Regardless, the board has learned that under a new Indiana state statute passed in 2022 and amended in 2023, should the board express an interest in changing to electoral districts, and they have not at this point, the board may only do so by December 31st of the year that follows the year in which a decennial census is taken. To be clear, moving to electoral districts from residential districts has not been part of the current public conversation related to our efforts to make our residential districts more equal. However, should the board desire to have a conversation and take action to create electoral districts in the future, it cannot happen under current statute until 2031 at the earliest. Based upon the stated priority to create districts representing a more equal number of people, I am pleased to recommend approval of Resolution 2023-15 and the accompanying maps and descriptions that accomplish our stated goals.
Also during the meeting, Lucas Calhoun, the new principal of the Bloomington Graduation School, introduced himself.
Thank you all. I appreciate your time and letting me be here this evening. I'm absolutely delighted and profoundly grateful for the privilege of assuming the role of principal at the Bloomington Graduation School. The opportunity to lead and collaborate with this specific group of educators, staff, and students fills me with tremendous excitement. I'm committed to fostering an engaging culture of academic growth empowerment, and equity. And together, I'm confident we will continue building an environment where every student can flourish and achieve their full potential. My family is here with me this evening, and we say thank you for entrusting me with this extraordinary responsibility. And I cannot wait to embark on this journey with the MCCSC team.
The MCCSC School Board will meet again on August 22nd. At their July 24th meeting, the Ellettsville Town Council approved Resolution 10-2023 to adopt the Comprehensive Plan. This plan will allow for future growth and development in Ellettsville. Planning Director Denise Line introduced the resolution.
On October 10th, 2022, Town Council signed Task Order Number 3, which was to create a comprehensive plan update and development of a UDO. That Task Order Number 3 was signed with Taylor Seifer Williams Design Group, LLC. The comprehensive plan provides a vision for future growth and development at Ellettsville. It does not change current zoning. The last update of the comprehensive plan was 2018. Early on, it was decided to incorporate the comprehensive plan into the Envision Ellettsville plan, which was completed in May of 2022. The only item needed for the comprehensive plan was a land use chapter. The Plan Commission started the comp plan process on January 12, 2023, with the review of the land use map proposed by Taylor Seifer. The Plan Commission discussed the comp plan at every meeting after that, and community involvement is crucial to a comp plan, and this was done through the Envision Ellettsville process and task force meetings that have been held at town halls since February. The Plan Commission members were provided with a copy of Chapter 4 at its May 4th meeting. They then reviewed it at their June 1st meeting, and then at June 6th, they had their public hearing and gave a favorable recommendation for the comp plan to the town council. I'm requesting approval and adoption of the comprehensive plan.
During public comment, a member of the Envision Ellettsville project, Kyle Hannon, urged the council to approve the resolution.
I want to start by saying thank you for your support of Envision Ellettsville, both all along, including participation in a lot of our events and things. It's been a long process. It's been an exciting process. There's been a great deal of public input into it, including a lot of survey results, a lot of people putting tags on boards that were appearing around the community, people attending, had 4 well-attended community meetings on it. We've had focus groups. We've had task forces, including one tomorrow. So there's been a great deal of public input into this great project. And then when we first got the vision plan back, it sort of talked about, okay, here's what it looks like in the future. Here are some ideas for how you can get this done. But there are some foundational things to take care of that you sort of need to take care of before you can take care of the other things. And first of those was the comprehensive plan. So I kind of brought this up with the Plan Commission. I was glad that they approved it. And now it's a long road ahead, and you guys have the steering wheel. So I ask you to support this so we can move ahead with this vision that so many people have participated in. Thank you.
Richland Bean Blossom School Corporation Superintendent Jerry Sanders also asked the council to approve the adoption of the comprehensive plan.
I've said many, many times when I've had the opportunity to get up and speak before you how greatly appreciative I am as superintendent and also as a citizen to be able to consider all of you partners and not only growing a community, but growing our future and our young people. And I really appreciate Envision Ellettsville and this project because from day one, education has been a key part of every step of the way. And as we think about, someday, there are going to be others who are going to be sitting in your chairs. Really, the students who are in our schools today will probably be sitting in your chairs, and making those hard decisions. And so we are really investing in our future. So I encourage you to support this plan.
The council voted unanimously to approve the resolution. Later, Town Manager Mike Farmer gave a flood report. He emphasized that the amount of rainfall over just a couple of hours can be intense and cautioned that it can be hard for the storm systems to handle.
Last Thursday at night, we had rain in Ellettsville. I live just out of town on the north side, and I had 1.5 inches, and it was pretty good rain. But in town, more to the south, we had 3.5 inches of rain in a couple hours. And when our storm guy says he had 3.9 inches, I don't know if he's just trying to up us all on our rain gauges, but we had probably 3.5 to 3.9 inches. And so the only reason I bring it up is, our stormwater utility, we try to keep up with projects that improves runoff and retention and this, that, and the other, but it's hard to keep up with, and the intensity indeed has changed and the kind of rains and how often we have them in the last few years, last 3 or 4 years especially. And so I just wanted to mention that we had that rain, and there was a lot of debris in the streets, and the street department, as usual, their crews and with the help of the utility crews went out and cleaned it all up and made it all good again.
And the fire department.
And the fire department, thank you.
You said thank you.
And so I just wanted to mention it because a 3.9 inch rain in a couple hours, maybe 3 at the most, that's a lot of rain.
Street Commissioner Kip Hetty added that Vine Street had about a foot of water on the street. Next, Utilities Director Jeff Farmer saw approval from the Town Council for an architectural services proposal for the Public Works facility.
The other thing that would have fallen under is Mike and I, after taking a hard look at what's going on in the future for the water and wastewater, one of the things that SRF is requiring is that you have an asset management plan. And so we reached out to Wessler Engineering about doing really coming in and looking at, there's a lot of growth being talked about on the west side, and just, we really need an engineer to look at the way our sewer system drains, and are we got the right capacity, and it's been a long time since we've had anybody do something like this. The other portion of this, and you guys can read through it, the first 6 pages are the important part. Is the asset management plan that is required by our SRF, State Revolving Fund. If we would have a project come up, you got to have this tool on your shelf to even get approved for the project. So they're making, the Indiana Finance Authority and SRF are making you have this. We actually need it, and they give us a price of $60,000, not to exceed $60,900.
The council unanimously voted to approve the proposal. And that is all for CATSweek. Thank you for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.